I'm 73 years old and I can finally admit something I spent my whole life dressing up as responsibility. I sacrificed my family for work, and I still regret it, even now, even after all the excuses have dried up. I'm not telling this because I want anyone to clap for honesty. I'm telling it because the house is quiet in a way that feels personal, like the walls remember more than I do. And because at this age, you start counting what's left, and you realize you can't spend your way out of loneliness. Most mornings, I wake up before the sun. Not because I'm disciplined, because sleep doesn't hold me the way it used to. My knees complain when I swing my legs off the bed. My shoulder pops if I reach too fast. There's a dent in the mattress where my wife used to sleep. And even though she's been gone from this room for years, I still catch myself looking at that side like something might return. I make coffee for one. The cup I use has a chip on the rim. It's the kind of small flaw you stop noticing until you're alone enough that every object feels like company. Sometimes I sit at the kitchen table and stare at my hands. They used to look stronger. They used to look like a man who could lift something and fix it and keep going. Now they look like time. Veins, spots, skin that's gotten thin. When I was younger, I would have hated that. Now it just feels honest. People used to call me a hard worker. They said it like it was the cleanest compliment a man could get. And maybe in some ways it was true. I showed up. I stayed late. I solved problems. I kept things running. I was dependable, but nobody ever said he was easy to live with. Nobody ever said he made the people around him feel seen. I didn't notice that difference until I ran out of chances to become that man. My story doesn't have one villain. It's worse than that. It has a lot of ordinary days that look fine from the outside. I grew up in a house where work was sacred. My father didn't talk about love. He talked about bills. He talked about shifts. He talked about what a man does and doesn't do. If you asked him how he was, he'd say, "Fine." If you asked him what he felt, he'd look at you like you'd asked him to sing. My mother held the house together with quiet hands. She'd put food on the table and keep her worries tucked behind her teeth. When she was tired, she didn't say, "I'm tired." She just moved faster, like stillness was dangerous. So I learned early that being needed meant being safe. And I learned that feelings could wait. When I was 22, I got my first real job. Factory work at first, then a move into a better position, supervisor, then operations, then managing people who managed people. The hours were long, but the pay got better, and the respect came with it. A man starts to confuse respect with love if he's not careful. I met my wife Diane when I was 25. She worked at a small insurance office. She had neat handwriting and a laugh that came out before she could stop it. The first time she laughed at something I said, it wasn't polite. It was real. It made me want to keep talking, which wasn't typical for me. Our first dates were simple. Dinner, food, walks, sitting in my car outside her parents' house because neither of us wanted the night to end yet. I didn't have much money, but I had ambition, and that felt like a promise. We married young enough to believe life would slow down once we made it. That phrase, "made it," used to live in my mouth like a prayer. We had our first child, Emily, when I was 28. Then our son, Michael, 3 years later. I remember Diane in the early years. She was tired, yes, but she was warm. She'd sing while folding laundry. She'd keep a small radio on in the kitchen. She'd sit on the living room floor with the kids and build towers out of blocks. And when the tower fell, she'd laugh like the world hadn't ended. I used to watch that and feel something. Not anger, not jealousy, more like confusion. How could she spend time on things that didn't produce anything? That's how my brain worked then. If it didn't produce, it didn't count. I started working more when Emily was little. Not because someone forced me, because the door was open, and I liked the way it felt to walk through it. Promotions meant I was somebody. Being needed at work gave me a place where the rules were clear and the praise was direct. At home, the rewards were quieter, the work never ended, and the people you love don't give you performance reviews. So I leaned toward what made me feel successful. It didn't feel like betrayal at the time. It felt like duty. I told myself, I'm doing this for them. And in a narrow way, I was. The mortgage got paid. The fridge stayed full. The kids had clothes for school and braces and Christmas presents. But I didn't understand then what for them was supposed to mean. I thought it meant money, stability, safety. I didn't understand that children also need a father who shows up when he says he will, a husband who sits down and listens even when he's tired, a man who doesn't treat home like a place to recover for the next workday. The cost didn't arrive all at once. It came in small withdrawals. I missed Emily's school play because a client meeting ran late. I missed Michael's first baseball game because we're short-staffed, and I couldn't leave. I missed a lot of dinners because I didn't leave the office when the clock said I should. I left when the work felt done, and the work never felt done. Diane would plate food and put it in the oven. She'd tried to keep the kids' bedtime routine consistent. She'd keep the house from falling apart. She didn't scream. She didn't threaten. She'd say things softly in passing, like she was leaving notes in the air. Emily asked if you're coming. Michael fell asleep waiting. You missed it. He looked for you. I would apologize quickly, then explain. I always had an explanation. And explanations are slippery. They let you feel like you handled something you didn't handle at all. There was one night, I remember it because it wasn't dramatic, that Diane stood in the kitchen while I ate reheated meatloaf. The kids were in bed. The house was quiet. She said, I feel like I'm raising them with a guest. I laughed a little because I honestly thought she was exaggerating. I said, that's not fair. I'm here. She looked at me, not angry, just tired, and said, you're in the building. That sentence stayed in me, but not in the way it should have. It didn't change me. It just irritated me. I wanted Diane to see what I was carrying. I wanted her to understand the pressure. What I didn't see was that she was carrying pressure too, just without a title. Over time, Diane started telling me less. Not because she didn't have anything to say, but because she learned what happened when she tried. If she told me she was overwhelmed, I'd offer solutions instead of comfort. If she told me she was lonely, I'd list what I did for the family. If she told me she missed me, I'd promise after this quarter, after this project, after we get through this. After it became a hallway, I kept walking down. The kids grew like that, quietly, while I was busy. Emily learned to drive, and I wasn't the one who taught her. Diane did. Michael had his first heartbreak, and he didn't come to me. He went to his mother. I didn't blame them. I just didn't understand. I thought, I'm here. I'm providing. What more do they want? Now I know what they wanted. They wanted me. Not my paycheck, not my stress, not my tiredness. Me. There was a point when Emily was about 16. She had a choir concert. Diane reminded me for 2 weeks. It was written on the calendar. I said I'd be there. The day came and something at work went wrong. A shipment issue, phones ringing, people panicking like the world would end. I told myself I'd fix it fast and make it in time. I didn't. By the time I walked into the school auditorium, people were standing up, gathering coats. I saw Diane near the aisle with Emily and Michael. Diane's face was tight. Emily wasn't crying, but she looked like she had swallowed something sharp. I started explaining before I even reached them. Diane said, very quietly, "Please don't." Emily didn't yell. "That's what hurts." She just said, "It's okay. You're always working." The way she always said, it didn't sound angry. It sounded finished. That's when I started losing my family, even though we were still living in the same house. Not because they left physically, because they stopped expecting me. You don't notice when people stop expecting you. It feels like peace at first, fewer arguments, fewer complaints. But what it really is distance settling in. The turning point when it came wasn't my retirement. It wasn't a sudden realization. It was an illness. Diane started getting tired in a way that didn't match her life. She'd fall asleep in the afternoon sitting upright. She'd forget small things, like where she set the keys. She'd get winded walking upstairs. She'd walked up for years. I told her she needed rest. I told her she was doing too much. I told her we'd take a vacation soon. She went to the doctor, then again, tests, scans. And then we got a word that rearranges your life. Cancer. I sat in that doctor's office and felt stupid for every meeting I'd treated like it mattered. I wanted to reach back in time and grab myself by the collar. But time doesn't work that way. During Diane's treatment, I became the man I always was. Efficient, organized, useful. I tracked appointments. I learned medication names. I argued with insurance companies. The nurses told me she was lucky to have me. People praised me for being devoted, and I took that praise like water because I needed it. It let me believe I was making up for something. What I couldn't make up for was the way Diane looked at me sometimes, like she didn't know whether I could really hold her. One night after chemo, she sat on the edge of the bed, pale, wrapped in a cardigan, hands trembling slightly. The house was quiet. The kids were grown by then and out of the house. It was just us. She said, "Do you know what I'm afraid of?" I started to answer like a manager. I started to say, "We're doing everything we can." She stopped me with a small shake of her head. She said, "I'm afraid I'll die, and this will be the most time we ever spent together." That sentence didn't need drama. It didn't need music behind it. It was just true. And I had no defense. Diane died 8 months later, not in a dramatic scene, just in the slow way people go when the body runs out of room for fighting. Last week she slept more than she spoke. The last day her breathing got thin. I held her hand. I told her I loved her. I told her I was sorry. She looked at me with a tired softness and whispered, "I know." That was it. No big forgiveness, no speeches, just "I know." Like she had known for years what kind of man I was and had loved me anyway until love got too lonely. After the funeral, people said I was a good provider. They said Diane was proud of me. They said, "You did everything you could." I nodded and thanked them like a man who knew how to stand in public. Then I came home to a house full of silence. And I realized the cruelest part. Work didn't come with me. Those people didn't sit at my table. Those deadlines didn't warm the bed. Those achievements didn't speak my name in the dark. Emily visits sometimes. We're polite. We're gentle. We talked about the weather and traffic and her kids. There's love there, but it's cautious. Like she learned not to lean too hard on me. Michael calls on Sundays, usually. We talk. We don't go deep. He's kind to me. He also keeps his distance like it's a habit he built young. And I don't blame them. I trained them. I taught them that I was the man you couldn't count on for the soft things. Now, there are things that can't be fixed. You can't go back to the auditorium and sit down on time. You can't put your hand on your child's shoulder when they're 12 and scared and pretend you didn't miss it. You can't sit at the kitchen table with your wife and choose her over the phone call you answered instead. You can apologize, yes. You can regret it. But you can't reclaim the years when love was waiting for you to notice it. If you're listening to me and you're in the middle of your life, still building, still running, still telling yourself, it's just a season. I'm not here to give you instructions. I'm not a wise man in a clean way. I'm just a tired old man telling you what it cost me. I thought work would take care of us if I took care of work. I thought providing would cover the absence. I thought there would be more time. And I was wrong. Not wrong like a number on a page, wrong like life. If this story meant something to you, if it hit a place you don't usually let get touched, you can leave a few words, not for me to feel important, just because some of us are walking around with the same quiet regret and don't know how to say it out loud. I'm 73 now. My days are smaller. I don't need much. I need my medicine. I need my groceries. I need a little sunlight through the window. Some days I need a phone call. At night when the house settles, I sometimes imagine Diane in the kitchen, the way she used to be, radio on low, hair tied back, moving around like she had all the time in the world. I can still see her setting a plate in the oven for me, even when she was tired of waiting. I used to tell myself I'd make it up later. Later arrived, and she was gone. That's the truth. Quiet. Plain. I sacrificed my family for work, and work didn't stay. Only the empty chair did.